All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, my right hand man, Lou. Lou, yet another week in the books, and here we are just to discuss our Week 15 recap. Week 16 is literally already here. We are less than 24 hours away from kickoff. What a wild week this has been for NFL fans. We had games on Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday, two on Monday, and two on Tuesday. My wife considered evicting me from the home because I was taking over the main television in our household. How'd you enjoy that slate of games?
First of all, awesome job bringing that back, man. Sitting to my right is my right hand man. That's a throwback. All
It
right,
is a throwback.
I'm liking that. I'm liking that. I actually thought I'd die this week and went to heaven because I'll tell you right now, this is football every day. Even if it's a bad game, it's fantastic. I personally think they got to get rid of like Thursday night game. I bet get rid of Thursday night games and then make it Saturday game. I don't. I just the more days you can have on football is fantastic.
I agree wholeheartedly. Listen, I despise Thursday night football games. I
I
think it's a
do. They're always the
it's
worst games.
it's a I think it's a crock of shit. I think it like for a league that preaches player safety and yada yada yada, like that is just so counterintuitive. But I understand why
Product
they
is so bad on the field too.
it's it,
Usually,
dude, like you just get people who would probably suit up on Sunday who don't suit up on Thursday. Like this is a violent game. It takes time to recover. And what but I understand because during the thick of the season, it's TV contract driven, right? And
hmm
all those other, Fox and CBS and NBC and anybody and ESPN, anybody that would cover a game, they're covering college on Saturday, right? So
hmm
there's money that's driven there. There's money that's driven to the NFL. So I feel like even a Friday night game would be more conducive to a player's health than a
Ooh,
Thursday night
Friday
game.
nights.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights, baby. I
They're,
mean, that's
they're
what we
like high
grew up
school
with.
style. High school
Oh,
style, bro.
dude, you remember how jacked up you get for a Friday night game versus a Saturday afternoon game as a high school football player. But it just makes sense to me, Lou, that in the first ever in our lifetime 18-week regular season NFL schedule, it just turns into utter chaos, right? So, like, on top of all this COVID madness, we have crazy, crazy battles taking place in the AFC and the NFC. There are several teams in both conferences fighting for those final 2 to 3 playoff spots. I honestly think the AFC is a little bit more wild than the NFC, and just in terms of record for competition, right? But there's still like similar number of teams that are essentially still in contention. But I literally can't recall a time where it was this tight for so many teams and so many spots, right? Usually when we're talking about wild card, talking about 2 spots. Now wild card looks a little bit more like 3 spots. So right now you have 6 teams still in contention, not including the 7 teams currently holding spots in the AFC. In the NFC, you have 4 teams still technically in contention, not including the 7 teams still holding spots. And what's even wilder is if you break this down mathematically, there are only 2 NFC teams that are mathematically eliminated and only 3 AFC teams that are mathematically eliminated. So in a 32 team league, you erase those 5 teams. There are 27 teams biting for 14 playoff spots. How crazy is that?
Yo, that's insane. Call it mediocrity. Call it balance or whatever you want to call it. Whatever. This is the NFL's wet dream. The fact that there's so much parity and there's not just that the dominant because it keeps every fan base engaged. It keeps more eyes on on the television. And you also think about. I know us, we're obsessed fans, so we'll watch any football just like we did this past week. But there are more casual fans that only watches their team or focuses on their team. And when more teams are out, I'm assuming more eyes are getting taken off of the screen. But yeah, it's been a wild story. Tell you right now, I would agree with you. I think the AFC is way wilder than the NFC right now, wide more wide open. And if I really want to drill down on that, I think the AFC West is perhaps the most wildest division right now in football. I'm not saying the best, but the wildest because you have the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos, and also the Raiders, all still within like a game or two of each other. Like it's just that is quite quite telling to say the least.
I mean, you got four, like you said, four teams, one division.
One's like nine and what is it? One is like 9-4, 9-5. One's 8-6. The other one's 8-6, and the other one's 7-7.
Yeah,
That
so
is insane.
you're talking about a 2-game swing, right, with 3 games left to play,
And they all play each other.
Yeah, and the NFL did this on purpose, right?
Oh,
So you see a lot of teams playing
this is
divisional
premeditated.
games to wrap up the season, to add to that slippery slope of competition,
This is premeditated. This is exactly NFL knows what it was doing.
which is not often.
Yeah.
But one thing I can
Yeah.
say, and I read this the other day, so I'm stealing somebody's clout. And
Love it.
I would give the person the credit if I remember who said it, but I know that I read it and this is not my own thought. But right now, the NFL seems to be littered with good teams,
You think it's
but
good?
no great teams, right?
Mhm.
Like we talk about it every week where the number 1 seed in each conference just tends to slide and tends to shift, and it's literally week to week right now. Like,
I got a conspiracy theory for you. Have you
yeah,
noticed how the teams have been shifting? Every time we give them a shout out on this show, the next week they shit the bed and start doing bad.
all
The
right.
Cardinals, we did the Cardinals, we did the Patriots, we did the Titans, the Bills.
I mean, we gave Buffalo the AFC Championship 7 weeks ago.
We have to show some love with Kansas City today.
You know what? Let's go out of our way to do that right now. And
Best
while
team
we're
in the
at it,
NFL. Kansas City's best team
yeah,
in the NFL.
can we do that for the Rams? Can we continue to do that for the Cardinals? And let's shit all over the 49ers and the Chargers. That should
Yeah.
probably be our play moving forward. But when just to my point, right? Like the parity and the changes from week to week. I mean, dude, we're literally coming off a week where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get shut out at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Taysom Hill led New Orleans Saints, where their head coach literally wasn't even in the building due to COVID restriction and protocols. And you have the Cardinals go on the road and get lambasted by the 1-win Detroit Lions. Like, Lou, this is the NFL. And here's the icing on the cake for us, for people like you and I. We also had the fantasy football playoffs begin this week. It is just a wild ride, a wild time. It is what I am here for. And honestly, let's call it what it is, Lou. This is quite frankly why you and I started this goddamn podcast almost a year ago to begin with. Because when I try to speak to my wife and try to explain these scenarios, as supportive as she is, as loving as she is, and as much as she tries her best to keep pace, she basically is at the point now where she just gives me this look and she's like, I'm happy for you, but I literally don't care. Like, I literally don't care. Like, that's where we're at, right?
He's like,
Because
oh
it's
my
become
God,
too
really?
much.
Kittle scored another touchdown?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Affectionately known in my household as Skittle. That stems from my mother, actually, who claims to be a lifelong New York Giant fans, but I am her firstborn son, so she and firstborn child, so she has allegiance to me, and I tease her all the time. She is secretly a 49ers fan, but she has to keep up the act because she'll text me all during 49ers games. Like, she won't even a word during the Giants games. During the 49ers game, are you okay? Everything all right over there? Is your heart popping out of your chest? Like, it's
Well,
wild.
to her defense, what the hell is she going to be texting about the Giants game for the
Yeah,
last 4 years?
that's also true. It's also true. I mean, you saw an article on ESPN, right? Like the demise of the Giants and the
I
Jets over
didn't
the
read it
last 10
yet.
years. I didn't read it yet either, but I saw the titling and I was like, I
Like,
might
what
avoid
happened?
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything you want to add to that wild opening, Lou? Anything
No.
that stands out to you from like the past week?
Uh, I think we should get
Just
right
dive
into
in.
it. Yeah,
All right.
let's put the snorkel on, whatever, the cap on. Let's just dive right into this pool.
All right. So we'll begin like we always do with our hometown takes. Your Chargers had the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a little bit to say about this. I'm sure you do as well. My 49ers hosted the Atlanta Falcons. Lou, you and I were talking about this jumping in. Normally we do like the good, the bad. Doesn't sound like based on these games there's going to be a clear division between good and bad. So I'm just going to let you take the reins and go ahead and dive right into it.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna let's just clear the air. The elephant in the room. We're gonna talk about the Chargers game. Your opinion, fourth downs. I think this is where you have to start the conversation with this past game, and I think this is going to be real interesting for me. You know me, I'm the analytical guy. I've been made fun of for enjoying the combine because I'm basically watching a bunch of grown men in tight shorts work out
and tight shirts.
Yeah, and tight shirts. So I'm very analytical in regards to like their height, their weight, their broad jump, stuff like that. You are the antithesis. You are the eye guy, the tape guy. So we're complete different. Lay it on me. Talk to me.
You want me to start with these fourth downs?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah, because then I have a feeling I just need to set the record straight. But go ahead.
So real quick, and I want to make the statement. This goes back to just what you were talking about with the combine. Is my high school coach who coaches in the NFL right now. Was predominant for where we were. I used to get nervous every offseason for varsity football when he'd be like, when there was just like new kid moved to the school or whatever it was. And like, everybody looks good in shorts and your cutoff shirts back in the day. That's how old we are. And he would tell me that. He's like, look, everybody looks good in shirts and shorts.
I never
when
did.
The pads on. When the pads are on, that's what matters. Let's see what you have. So
that's an older school mentality though. They got to think about it. That's what, 20 years ago?
Yes, actually.
I just dated us. You just got scared shitless right now.
Somewhere between 20 and 22 years ago to be exact for this time frame. But you laid something on me, and I think the most talked about aspect of this game was the fourth downs. So I want to be very transparent.
No, I need you. Yes, go ahead.
I do not have a problem with the majority of the fourth down attempts, and let me tell you why. Because this has been the staple of this LA Chargers offense all year. Brandon Staley is like, he's almost taking a page out of Bruce Arians' book, like no risk it, no biscuit, right? Like this is what we do. Like we go for it. He's an analytics guy. I honestly hate the analytics. Like I'm like, play football. Points are points. So the opening drive, got to go for it on fourth down there. You just had this massive kickoff return, right? Where special teams helped you out. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, got to score touchdowns. Totally get that. So I'm all on board with that, which is like contradictory to my statement about like the 49ers against the Jacksonville Jaguars when they didn't go for it and they kicked the field goal. But difference, 18 play drive, 13 minutes of clock, got to get points there. This was, hey, you returned it almost to the house and you had a handful of plays. So like barely any times come off the clock. I feel like you got to go for it there. And if you don't, you turn the ball over inside their own 10-yard line, free possession, right? Like that's the way I look at it. So I have no problem with the fourth downs. One of them, Joshua Kelly fumbled going into the end zone, right? Like going over the top, fumble.
And you know how much I love Joshua Kelly.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've bashed him on here.
So some of this comes down to execution. So I don't fault them for going in those scenarios, but I have one that stands out to me that no matter how many times you ask me this question, no matter what the scenario looks like, my answer is always going to be take the points. And it was the fourth down right before the half. Neither defense have stopped each other, right? Neither defense has stopped each other for the most part at this point in the game. It is a 4-point game. The Chargers have the lead. Patrick Mahomes has the ball with a little bit more than 2 minutes left in the game. Takes it down. You guys, I think you forced a turnover, right? So free.
Joey Bosa, yeah.
Yep. Bosa strip, sack, fumble. So free possession.
By the way, lead league in strip, sack, fumble there.
Yes. Who gets the ball to start the second half? Kansas City Chiefs do, right? So that comes into play here as well. So to me, what does every team try to do? If you get the ball in the second half, you try to score right before the end of the first half. You get the ball again, you try to score, right? 2 scores now separates the game. You got a free possession. You go down there, you have to kick that field goal. You have to make that a true one possession game. You have to make that a 7-point game. Have to kick the field goal there, especially knowing that you don't get an immediate chance of redemption to start the second half. So the other ones I got no problem with. Game flow dictated. You got to go for it. That one I have a huge fucking problem with. That is the one where the eyeball test comes out and the old school mentality comes in and says, take the points, period. And look, like I could sit here and tell you that in hindsight, 12 points, right? Like that's 12 points that were left on the field. I'm not going to tell you that, but I'll tell you those were the 3 most important points left on the field.
But you just did.
I could, but like I did, but like I didn't harp on it. Those 3 that they left there, right there, Lou, that's the football game.
You suck, Weston, because I really thought you were going to have a bigger problem about them going for fourth downs. This has to stop, this bashing of the fourth down. Like you said before, it is not going for it that did them in. It was the execution. You're right. Okay. On the first possession, Donald Parham on fourth down dropped a wide open pass. Can
we hold on 1 second? 1 second here. And only because you're mentioning that person's name, like prayer's still out for like Donald Parham, right? Like I've been a fan of his all season.
He's been fantastic.
He's been a great addition to that football team. My heart aches for this individual, a 24-year-old kid, right? Like, and I know he left the hospital the next day and what have you, but like, bro, that was serious. And the convulsions that you saw and talking to doctors, like, he's not coming back this season. I don't know. So. I don't know what the longevity recovery looks like for that. But one thing I want to say was like, just a sobering reminder that these players are people too, and they play a very, very violent sport. And we sit here and critique the shit out of these people, but we're nobodies, right? Like these are the people. But one thing I want to say is like, this is why I love football. My wife, right? Like who does her darndest to like keep pace with me. She asked me the entire rest of that football game. That happened on the first drive of the game. Have there been any updates on Donald Parham? Any updates on Donald Parham? She's on her phone. I'm asking her what she's doing. She's Googling updates on Donald Parham. The next day, every 30 minutes, dude, she come downstairs into my office. Hey, have you heard anything about Donald Parham? Like, this is what I love about football and what it brings together. And the only reason why I'm saying this is Donald Parham is now my wife's favorite player in the NFL. I might have to buy her a Donald Parham jersey, but like that needs to be said because people just need to remember that these are just people too, and they're playing a kid's game and they're just better at it and they get paid to do it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you because I know you're on the spot, but like my heart goes out to that man. My heart goes out to his family. And I truly, truly hope that even if he never plays a down of football again, he gets to live a long life, because we've only seen injuries like that a couple times, dude. We've only seen Dennis Byrd, you and I, in our lifetime, Eric LeGrand from Rutgers in our lifetime, but that looked almost as serious.
Yeah, no, it definitely was serious. It was sobering to say.
But he was wide open. He was wide open.
Yeah. So all right. So we're getting back to the fourth down plays. First one, Donald Parham open in the end zone, dropped a touchdown. Like he was wide open. Wide open. So. Why is that on Staley? That's on player execution. Second one, Dirty Dan Sorensen batted a pass down. That's not on Staley. That, by the way, it was going to Keenan Allen in the flat, and Keenan was fairly open. He sure as hell would have walked in because it was a pick play. That's just a great play. But you're forcing the Kansas City defense to have to make a great play. All right. The next, a couple of ones later, Cook dropped a wide open pass at the goal line. That's execution. That's not on Staley. And then you got the Joshua Kelly fumble. How is this on Staley? How's this on the coach? This is not on the coach. This is on the players. And I love how he stuck up for them in his press conference, saying, "This is going to be me. This is going to be us." He had to go to the players, before the season started, like, "Hey, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to go for it. Statistically, it's going to work out for us, all right? But there's going to be times when they're not, and I'll take the heat for it and what have you." But all that being said, if you love Staley when he was going for it against the Kansas City Chiefs and winning that game, against the Cleveland Browns winning that game, against the Cincinnati Bengals winning that game, all going. If you loved him then, why you are being petty right now and hating him now? This is a process, all right? There is a guy from Yahoo Sports, at home, he basically compared it to blackjack. Now, I'm not a good blackjack player at all, but I know there's like a systematic rules of blackjack when you're supposed to hit and when you're not supposed to hit. And when you're supposed to hit, you don't want to hit, but statistically saying you have to hit because more likely the dealer will bust you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly Staley's philosophy. It's going to work the most of the time, but you might not like what's going to happen. But all the plays, all 5 fourth down attempts, statistically speaking, he should have went for it because if he made just one more of those fourth downs, they win.
Game's over.
The game is locked. It's done. It's like there would be no controversy how it was going to end. So statistically speaking, it makes sense. And I'll tell you right now, he can't go back on his message with the team. They know that because some of my friends were talking to me about like this has to demoralize the team. The players have to be pissed. Here we are. We played a great game. You put us in a bad position to not win this game. I disagree. He's ridiculously transparent. You can't tell me he addressed the team before the season, tell them like this is how it's going to be, and they're prepared for this. All right, so you can't. What would it look like now if he changed his tune and be like, you know what, we're not going to be as aggressive? He
No
did
faith
that.
in the team.
Yeah, the team would be like, well, wait a minute, you pumped us up. It was working, and one time you're shying away now. And the time they were, quote unquote, conservative and punted more than they went for, it was against the Vikings. How did that turn out, by the way? So I'm telling you right now, I've seen over conservativeness with the previous regime, right? And I've now seen over aggressiveness with this new regime in place. I'll take over aggressiveness 10 times out of 10, every week because at least you're just fighting to win and getting a census from all the Charger fans out there. I'll tell you right now, we are not upset at all. There's not one person calling for Staley's head because we all think that, hey, we're ride or die. You're trying to do something different. And for the most part, I took a lot of positives out of the game. I felt like we had them on the ropes. And I felt like this is a situation. So I'm going to say this. I'm no longer scared of the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. I'm no longer scared because I feel like, and I'm not taking anything away from Kansas City, right? They are a fantastic team. What I am saying is that the LA Chargers close the gap. Kansas City is still fantastic, but guess what? LA is right behind them. And I felt like, I'm going to compare it to a scene, right? From an amazing movie called Fast and Furious. All right. Hear me out. All right. Hear me out. All right. So the LA Chargers are they are Paul Walker's character. And in the movie, Paul Walker is an undercover detective trying to infiltrate a gang of vigilantes. So he races Dominic Toretto, who's played by Vin Diesel. All right. So the first time they meet, they race each other, and Paul Walker has Vin Diesel on the ropes, but then he blows his tranny, he doesn't finish the race. So now Paul Walker owes Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, I think a pink slip for his car. So Paul Walker goes to Vin Diesel and goes, dude, I had you. And Vin Diesel goes, you had me? You never even had your car because his car got wrecked during the race. But Vin Diesel was deep down inside respected him and was scared. And I think this is what's happened with Kansas City. They're like, wow, this team is for real. Herbert's for real. This coach is for real. Tyrann Mathieu even went on Twitter numerous times saying that, Herbert's been calling out my plays, knew exactly the coverages I was in. He's for real. He's like, that was a great game. Much respect to the LA Chargers. They got a lot of good things going on over there. Like, you have to, that's game recognizing game right there. And I'll tell you right now, I came more positive than negative. It's eerily reminiscent of the time that the Patriots played the Giants in the regular season, lost to the Patriots, but I think we kind of figured them out a little bit. I think it'll be different if we get there again. And look what happened.
Wild game, dude. Do you want to know? So outside of the fourth downs, and I still hold my ground. There's only one that I question, And the reason I question is because of the scenario is why I question it. Other than that, the philosophy, like Brandon Staley's had that conversation. Of course, if the players are pissed off at all, they're pissed off at themselves, not at their coach. And it's about execution. Like, look at John Harbaugh. Last 2 weeks has lost football games because of going for a 2-point conversion at some point in the game.
But look at the interaction on the field, though, like on the
talking to his
sideline,
coaches, talking to his players, and they've all
it's inclusion,
said,
it's empowerment.
Coach, we got to do this. I feel like we got to do this, right?
This is a long-term play. Yes, you're
100%.
Right.
This is, Coach, you believe in us. Coach, we believe in you. And sometimes it's going to work out, and sometimes it's not going to work out. To me, again, the biggest one was at the end of the half. You have to take those points. That's just me. The biggest thing for me from this game was when Derwin went out.
Oh my God.
All of a sudden, Travis Kelce.
All right. So Travis
ruined my fantasy football hopes, ruined everything with his performance. But is it coincidence that all of a sudden 33 is out of the game and now 87 is available and is 7-Eleven open 24/7 when prior to that, like, was a statistical anomaly, just non-existent in the game?
Love Kelce. Kelce's, I mean, hate him as a person. If he was on my team, I would love him type stuff. Second best tight end in the league. We all know who the first one is.
We do, don't we?
I'm not just doing that to blow smoke up your ass.
No, so, I get it.
But
appreciate it.
I'm telling you, Kelce's kryptonite is Derwin James. It always has been. All right. And you can like, all right, what's the proof in the pudding? I got stats here real quick. When James was on the field, 20 with a bum hammy, by the way, he had 26. He played against Kelce 26 times, 26 snaps, allowed 1 catch for 14 yards.
Yep.
Soon as James went out, Kelce went bonkers. 41 snaps without James, 9 catches, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
As soon as James went out, they had 2. They not making excuses. But they did have 2 practice squad, the practice squad safety and a practice squad cornerback playing against Tyreek Hill. So
the one in overtime is the one that perplexes me the most, because it felt like there was this like force field around Kelce that no matter where he ran, just people couldn't get around it. You know what I mean? It was just like, don't tell me to me, the play looked like it was in slow motion and that still couldn't get there. But dude, this is why it's important, and good teams, especially on the defensive side of the ball, have impact players at all 3 levels.
Yeah.
And Derwin James is that impact player at the 3rd level of a defense that takes offensive weapons out of the game. And you saw it right away. As soon as coaches were like, whoa, hey, 33's not out there no more. Let's go.
Sideline with his helmet.
Let's go. 87, middle of the field all day long. All day long.
And real quick, and then we'll end this charades here. We all were saying, wow, the Rashawn Slater was a loss pregame because of COVID, was a huge loss. That's going to be huge. Now they're having pressure from both sides of the ball now because Trey Pipkins is playing or trying to play this game called football. But all kidding aside, Trey Pipkins, the offensive line was phenomenal. It's only allowed 6 pressures.
Dude, the whole offensive line, and this is in my notes here, right, is they kept Herbert clean.
And I don't think
Herbert had the best game. I don't think he had the best game. I think he had a really good game. And I think when you're like the Kansas City Chiefs, who's the perennial powerhouse in the AFC West, you're still worried because you're like, oh, damn, number 7 didn't even have the best game. And we still came down to like the wire. I don't think they did anything spectacular on offense. They just moved the ball consistently, right?
Nothing spectacular. Just ho-hummingly. Yeah, we're just going to move the ball down.
But they did. But, like, there wasn't the play, to Jalen Guyton, like.
Can I tell you why, though? Real quick. Remember last week I was talking about, I love what they did with the Giants. They ran 37 times, got all 3 running backs, and they did the same exact thing this week.
Yeah, they did. It's a winning formula, dude. This is still the NFL. Run the football.
I think slowly but surely, if they're fortunate enough to get in the playoffs, they're going to have starting to change a philosophy to be more physical and by running the ball and having all these running backs contribute. Justin Jackson looked great.
Here's the good news for them. Justin Jackson actually did really look really good. And it was Kelly who fumbled it, right? It wasn't
I
Jackson who
hate
fumbled
Kelly.
it. It
Yeah,
was
no,
Kelly who
it was
fumbled it.
Kelly.
Which was the one that happened before the half? Was that the drop to
No, that was
Cook?
no batted down pass, but
Batted down pass before the half. Okay.
yeah.
Good news for the Saints. I mean, the Chargers. So long as they don't play a away game against the Colts, all games are going to be outside in
Yeah.
January. Running football is a formula that matters in the playoffs in cold. Bro, people don't want to tackle in cold weather. I've been talking about when we've been talking about fantasy football on Jason's show. Why do you think I've been slamming the table for AJ Dillon? Why do you think Derrick Henry is a savage in the playoffs? Because it hurts to tackle people in cold weather, especially big, manly, grizzly type individuals. And not saying that they have that type on the Chargers, but if you're pounding the ball 28, 30 plus times a game, and even if it's at 3 yards a tote, that's a winning formula in the playoffs, dude. That is a winning formula in the playoffs,
Yep.
especially when you have a quarterback who can make the big throw.
All right. Yeah. Enough.
Yeah.
Let's head out to. I told you that it was
I actually do have one other thing.
Oh.
What I loved about this game, dude, let's not get away from this game and not mention the fact that the Chiefs ran 68 plays, the Chargers ran 78 plays, and there was over 900 yards of combined offense in this game. Like, it was an exciting football game to watch on Thursday night.
I've told you before, and you mocked me, Weston, but I told you before, Chargers need to play prime time every week. When was the last time you seen a boring Chargers game?
I haven't, because I've been watching them just because of you, so I can comment on these.
Dude, yeah, I mean,
I haven't.
If you have no, yeah, it is straight up. Get your popcorn.
2018, because even the ones they lose in such a sexy manner. It's like unbelievable. All right, so Chargers still in the playoff hunt. I think you have the 7 seed right now, right?
6
seed? 6. All right, so let's talk about another 6 seed team right now. The 49ers. We had the Falcons.
There you go.
Again, for me, no good, bad breakdown here. Just a long-winded rant, if you will. So interject at any time. My biggest fear, and I mentioned this last week on our show, was being like that Jekyll and Hyde team. And after beating a good Cincinnati Bengal team, coming in here and just laying a dud at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Thankfully, that did not happen. But if you were to call me in the first, I don't know, half a second of this football game, I would have told you that I thought maybe it would have happened, because we fumbled the opening kickoff inside our own 15-yard line. Thankfully, though, the defense made a huge 4th down stop to turn the ball.
Your defense has been balling in the last 4 weeks.
I'm going to get into this in just a moment here, because there's some unsung heroes on this defense. We turned the ball back over on downs. We negated that negative play, whatever it was. But the asterisk here is the special teams continue just to be a glaring need for us. We have no true kick returner. We have Ayuk out there at punt returner. We're giving up way too much yards on kick returns. It's a problem that is going to rear its ugly head in January, should we be fortunate enough to get there. Just my thoughts. But I do want to stand up and literally applaud this defense. We had 3 4th down stances inside our red zone during the game. And when you look back at essentially who we're trotting out there right now, specifically with our defensive backs, D'Amico Ryans has this unit balling, dude. Like, I mean, look at what we did for the first 3.5 quarters against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, we took their offensive weapons out of the football game. And dude, we're trotting out Josh Norman at corner. He can't cover anything. He forces fumbles very well, because he's like trying to be like Peanut Tillman, the way he comes in and punches that ball out. We're starting Ambry Thomas. Do you know who Ambry Thomas is? Like,
I do.
Going once, going twice.
Yeah, is he from Michigan?
He's from Michigan, and he didn't play last year. He sat out due to COVID. And he was drafted. And I'm not going to knock Ambry in this game, because if you go back and watch it, like, he did get quote unquote burnt by Russell Gage a couple times, but he was in the right position, and Russell Gage just made
Good play.
just good plays, man. Just like good catches, like mossed him one time, but the rookie corner in the right spot. But this defense playing, I mean, Jimmy Ward, you know how I feel about Jimmy Ward. Jaquaski Tart all over the field. I mean, Bosa, Jesus God almighty. This guy, I sent you a text earlier this week with him in a chokehold,
He's
and I
getting
can
choke
send you,
slammed. Yeah.
dude, you know what the biggest flaw for Bosa is right now, though, dude? Is he just goes so hard that like he just tries to fight through that. If he was like any other defensive lineman
Yeah,
and
but
just threw his arms in the air, we'd have holding call on every play. But he just like he's so
that comes with maturity, Weston. That comes with maturity.
But they're just both these Bosa brothers are just so focused in on kill the quarterback that they just like they don't quit. Like the motor is unbelievable. Like, and we're talking about Bosa, dude. I think he's in discussion for defensive player of the year. And if he doesn't win comeback player of the year, it's a crime. Don't give me Dak Prescott bullshit.
Okay. Well,
coming off ACL, dude, and do what he's doing right now. Like, it's unreal. And that's not a homer.
I know another player coming off of ACL injury too. That's first time Pro Bowler. Not first time. He's a first team Pro Bowler.
Who?
A guy named Derwin. Two sacks, 2 interceptions, 100 tackles, and plays 5 positions.
14 sacks, bro. Leads the league in tackles for a loss. Like, let's go. All right. So let's get back.
Ooh, we should put out a poll.
We will.
I like that.
I like that too. So if you looked at the score in the first half, this game seemed closer than it really was. But like even me as the fan who's like the nervous Nelly fan who like thinks every play is like going to win or lose the game, this game never even felt like close. Like the Falcons just felt like a bad football
feeling,
team.
Right?
Yeah. And the 49ers just felt like a superior football team based on who was on the field. And you felt like at any point the 49ers were just going to pull away. Right. Like, and especially felt very redeeming considering how the game started. To me, what this game signified for the 49ers is the offense continued to hit its stride. We have a very simple formula, and I've just been talking to you about this. Run the football, get your weapons involved, quarterback don't turn the ball over. When you do those 3 things, you're going to win more games than you're going to lose. And speaking of that quarterback, I thought Jimmy played like a pretty gritty game, dude. Like he made some big throws. He seemed to get through his progressions a little better. There were some ones early on where like we didn't convert on 3rd down. I'm looking at George Kittle like wide open in the middle of the field. But I know sometimes depending upon the play call, like maybe Kittle's the 3rd read there, right? So like, did you have enough time?
Kittle ever be the 3rd read?
Because Kyle's just ignorant like that, right? Like Kyle's just like, I'm gonna scheme Debo. Like
he should be 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
He really should, dude. He's a difference maker the way he's played. But what was I think for Jimmy, like it was nice for him. He wasn't pressured often. You know, again, maybe the Falcons defensive line is just not super threatening, right? Like he was never really, really in trouble. Another positive thing for me is I love seeing Jeff Wilson. Jason and I talked about like how everybody needed him to have a big week in fantasy. And
he did.
He finally looked like back to himself, healthy, running the ball physically, that 4+ yards per carry. That's what you expect from him. You know, you don't expect like a super impressive number, especially with Elijah Mitchell being out, who's also going to be out on Thursday night. So it's nice to see.
This is a real test now. Thursday night, because they stopped the run well. Tennessee's defense is pretty well. So this is going to be interesting if you guys can physically overpower them.
We won't on the offensive side of the ball. I think this is going to have to be a Jimmy game, right? Like he's going to have to be efficient. He's going to have to throw for 2 touchdowns. He's going to have to throw for 250 yards. I know. That's what some games dictate, right? Like when you talk about matchups, like that's what the matchup says, that they have a defensive line who can play. They have a front 7 that's aggressive. And this is a Mike Vrabel led team. Like they're physical in the trenches. And like what looks good for us on the opposite side is Taylor Lewan and Roger Sudfeld are not playing, right? So like your two
Why
guys.
Is that? As
COVID? Lewan because of his back and Sudfeld because of COVID.
Who knows? Okay, go ahead.
Not Sudfeld, Saffold, Roger Saffold. Sorry, I mispronounced that.
Both, yeah, that's huge.
Yep. So that is helpful. We'll see if like AJ Brown and Julio are playing too. This is what Thursday does to you though. Like these guys probably play if it's Sunday, right? But like it's Thursday, they don't. So in this game, I didn't want to talk too much about like individual performances, but there is one that actually stands out to me that bodes well. And it's Arden Key, right? So we all remember Arden Key from LSU, went to the Raiders, died a slow death in Oakland and now Las Vegas. We found him off the Raiders scrap heap. And he has 6 sacks and 19 pressures over his last 7 games. I think he had like 3 or 4 career sacks coming into the year. He had another one. So he had one this game. He had another one that was negated on, quite honestly, maybe one of the worst roughing the passer penalties I've ever seen in my entire life. Like he just tackled Matt Ryan and they're like full body weight. And like, I know what the rule is. This was not the rule, the way that it was defined. Actually, his first sack, he literally hip tossed Matt Ryan, and that should have been probably flagged over the one that was actually flagged.
Makeup call.
Yeah, but for real. But other than that, like I feel the same way you felt about the Giants Chargers game last week, right? Like this is what they were supposed to do. They did every bit of that. The game was rather boring in the second half, even though, like, again, I watched the game and I think every play is the most critical play. Like that's just like how I watch football. So like I'm nervous until the whistle blows and all 60 minutes have come off the clock. But that being said, like I wasn't super nervous. I have a funny story for you though, and we'll get out of this. Boho, our executive producer. Everybody knows Boho from our executive producing days. He comes over every once in a while to watch 49ers game. He's a 49ers fan through me from growing up. So I always have a joke with him that I'm like, bro, like, I don't know if you can come over. I have my routines. I'm very superstitious. Like, if they start losing, like, you got to go, dude. Or you can sit outside in the driveway and you can come in after the game, like, whatever it is. But, like,
put him in a bathroom.
Yeah. If you're bringing bad juju, like, you got to go. So this dude walks in like 3 minutes before kickoff. And bless his soul, he shows up with some food for me and for Landon. My wife's not home. So he's like showing up with like gifts for us, right? And my son loves Boho, and we're going through it. And then all of a sudden, like he's putting food out in front of me, and I'm feeling very distracted. Like very distracted, and that's not the way I like to feel, like to settle into the games. And they fumble the opening kickoff. And this kid just put like food out in front of us, and I look at him and I go, "Get out." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Seriously, get out of my house."
No, I agree with you. Obviously, the logic here, and it's 100% not flawed whatsoever, that Boho caused that fumble.
100%. 100%. Now, good for news for him is I let him stick around a little bit longer and things balanced out. So he is welcome back.
Okay.
But this is like an ongoing joke. Like sometimes he'll call me and he'll be like, "Bro, I can come, but I won't be there till like midway through the first quarter." I'm like, "Can't come." Like I don't like disruptions during the game, and he gets it. Like he doesn't judge me. He doesn't do any of that. He's like, "All right, dude, I'll see you next week." You know, like we'll do whatever. But like literally he's there. He's at my house for 3.5 minutes. And I look at him and I'm like, "Bye, bro. Gotta go." All right, let's get out of this. A lot of fun. Good week. All right. So let's get into, like we always do, following our hometown takes. What are you freaking about this week?
COVID. And what the hell's going on?
I started the same thing.
If I'm NFL fans, what's going on with these protocols? Is it basically saying that, like, see no COVID, hear no COVID, there is no COVID type thing? Are they, like, literally doing that with vaccinated players? Because, I mean, I think in the last week, 208 players tested positive. So, like, is it now with the new protocols? Like, if they tested positive and had no symptoms, they're cool, they can play. Because like everyone, like that's all you see. If you played a drinking game and the word was COVID, then you'd be wasted when you're trying to read the NFL news, what's going on. So it's just going to be, I don't know what's going on with these protocols. Who's playing, who's not. And guess what? I don't think it's going to stop because, obviously things are getting worse. So it's going to make the playoffs ridiculously interesting. Players, going into protocols where it might affect the product on the field in a negative way. For example, if the Colts make it, right, Carson Wentz isn't vaccinated.
Yep.
Can you picture if they had to start I don't even know who their backup is, but keep it if they start their backup because he's not vaccinated. Same thing. A couple Chargers aren't too. I'm sure a couple Niners too. We're talking about the Bosa brothers. They're definitely
Mhm.
not. But like, think about like if you have a playmaker and they're not vaccinated, and you're playing Russian roulette, and guess what? It's not just one bullet in the chamber of six. There's like three now because I feel like in order to dodge this, you have to be like Neo from the Matrix right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you and I talked about how it's hit the household, right?
Yep.
And this is what I led with too. I said I'd be freaking out if I was the NFL right now because this is like worst case scenario at the worst time of the year, considering compared to last year, they dodged a major bullet for the first 14 weeks of the season. And then all of a sudden it's 30 plus players a day. Teams can't fully practice. Games are being scheduled. They might even have to consider keeping fans out of the stadiums as cities just tighten their indoor outdoor restrictions to vaccinated and unvaccinated, mask mandates. Like things are just changing around the NFL at the worst time. Like if this
Yep.
was week like 1 through 5, they figure it out. But you're now in the home stretch of the season.
Nah,
And
man. Now NFL just made a statement. They just made a statement saying with their new protocol, Steve Young said we're playing ball.
yeah,
They're
because they
like,
have to, dude. Like there's too much money on the line. Like they have no choice. But this goes back to player safety. They don't give a shit. They literally don't give a shit,
the
dude. They
NHL
don't.
closed for 10 days or 2 weeks. They're
Yep.
closing for,
NFL
yeah.
can't, man. There's a tight schedule. Super Bowl is Super Bowl, right? Like that ain't moving. Like that's staying there and they're getting there hell or high
You hear
water.
that train, people?
Yeah, that's it. The NFL train is forging forward. You're here once, you'll hear it in just a second coming by my house. That's how close Lou and I live to one another. But it also just to me like is like egg in the face for the NFL. Like, yeah, we're full of shit. We get it, right? Like we told you we'd penalize teams, and all of this, but like just kidding. Can't do
Yes,
that. Too
yes
much
and
money on
no.
the line.
Yes, no,
They
because I
said it,
heard.
dude.
Hold on, but I heard from the NFLPA. I read something like the NFLPA just who represent all the players
Players,
are
yeah.
supposed to represent their interests. They wanted no testing. Just like screw it. Let's just go. You don't
Yeah.
feel good, so it's not just the NFL saying screw players healthy. The NFLPA wanted to go through those same wanted to say scrap everything.
Dude, if you're a player and you don't play because you're on the COVID list, you don't get paid.
Exactly. So,
And
so it's not just the NFL too. It's too much money for
yeah,
anyone to
and
stop.
and and here's the reality is not all, but most are walking around asymptomatic. Like the NFL, due to their protocols and what they provide and who they are, they have access to way more than you and I do, right? Like I work from home, you work from home. We certainly don't get tested every day. These fucking guys get tested every time they walk in the building, right? Like it's and tracking and tracing and everything that goes with it. So they just have exposure to the best of the best. You and I do not. And it's almost a shock to some of these guys. They're like, what? I feel fine. What do you mean I have this and oh, I'm not vaccinated? So poof, see you 10 days later. So
Hmm.
they'd prefer to not be and that's 95% of the people. The other 5%, they are symptomatic. They have issues and I hope they're okay. And I hope they are adequately protected and have access to the best resources. But that's why the players are like, yo, let's just roll with this
Yeah.
without testing because the majority of us are doing just fine. And the other ones that are symptomatic are saying like, this is like the Michael Jordan flu game. I've played with the flu before. Like, let's go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Don't keep me out of here. All right. You got another one you're freaking out about?
But yeah, the Colts. How not? They started 1-4 this season, now sitting the fifth seed in the AFC playoff race. I think that's ridiculous. That turnaround, starting off at 1-4, and now where they are right now. They have an amazing offensive line, dynamic running back, fast physical front seven, that defense that wreaks havoc upon teams. You're not going to out physical them because they're that physical on defense with Buckner, and also the middle linebacker Leonard.
So good.
Oh,
Darius
yeah,
Leonard is so good.
he's so good, and you know what? Also, their defensive coordinator is pretty damn good too. He's been good for like numerous years now. I want to say 3 years. He almost got some head coaching consideration last year. But all that said, this team will go as far as Wentz and their secondary will let them. But right now, I said it last week. that's not a team I would want to play in the AFC playoffs.
No, what I just talked to you about the Chargers, right? Like running the football is the winning formula, and they're hitting
It's
their
not just
stride.
no, but it's not just they are. You can't stop them. We said Bill Belichick last week, right? What does he do? He takes your best weapon always.
Yep.
He couldn't do it last week.
What wins football game? What wins playoff football? What travels in playoff football? A running game
Referees.
and a defense. Yeah, and referees in this instance. Not well, but running game and defense. That's what travels in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to play the Indianapolis Colts either. I think they're hitting their stride at the right time. I do think I agree with you in the sense of like they'll go as far as their secondary and their quarterback will take them. And I am very hesitant to say that their quarterback can take them far. So I say that they're going to go as far as number 28. Its legs can take them. And this will make sense in 10 to 12 minutes when I talk about the other individual.
Yeah. So, and real quick, not to have any disparaging remarks against the Colts or other teams that play this smash mouth football, who's carrying their quarterbacks. Kind of like the Niners, there's going to be a time where your quarterback's going to have to win the game.
Has to make a play. Has to be able to make a play.
Yeah, or there's, especially in the playoffs. In the playoffs, you're playing better teams. You're playing better offenses. There's going to be a time you're going to have to play, either catch up or keep with type stuff, and you can't just solely rely on that running game.
Yep, I totally agree, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
All right, so my last freaking out, I'm staying on the negative path. I'm going to the Arizona Cardinals. A few weeks ago, it felt like they were literally on top of the world, beating teams with their third string offense. Colt McCoy out there slanging that rock.
2 weeks ago, we deemed them the best team in the NFL.
Now, what's crazy is outside of D-Hop, most of their starters are back, and they've lost 2 weeks in a row. I think you can swallow the divisional loss against the Rams, right? The Rams are surging. They're playing well. They for the most part have played well all year outside of like a little 2-3 game stretch in there, but they've balled out. But on the road to the 1-win Detroit Lions in a game that literally was not even close. Like it was never close. Like that game was never close for 58 minutes. That's tough. And I know that like Lou, and you and I would agree, all NFL teams lay a dud. Everybody lays a dud once a season, right? Like we just saw this with the Bucs with their shutout loss at home to the Saints. Is anybody really worried about like the Buccaneers? Like I am a little bit because of their injuries, but like not like it's still Tom Brady led, right? Like they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. But to me, what starts to happen here to the Cardinals in a tight race in the NFC and in the NFC West specifically is that ugly thought is going to continue to creep. And that ugly thought is Cliff Kingsbury for his career is 5-8 in December. The Cardinals are notorious for having these December collapses when everybody's like, oh, this was once real. Now this is fake. And the losses are beginning to mount for them at the wrong time. And guess what? Doesn't get any easier this weekend based on who they play, right? We just talked about the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, those are two teams. Yeah, completely opposite end of the spectrum here now. You're right.
Yep. And so I'm going to come back to them in a second, but they went from being the first in the conference comfortably to now the 4th seed in the conference with the Rams nipping at their heels to potentially knock them out of a home playoff game. And they'll make the playoffs, right? Like it's going to take a minor miracle for them not to make the playoffs, in my opinion. But that big momentum is just going in the wrong direction. And like I mentioned, having the Colts, I forget if this is a home game or an away game for the Cardinals. To me, it doesn't matter. I think it is a home game. Yeah. But what do the Cardinals do well? They're an air attack. What do the Colts do well? They're going to ground and pound. How do you stop a team like the Arizona Cardinals? You keep their offense off the field. How do you keep somebody else's offense off the field? You control time of possession. How you control time of possession? You convert on third down and you run the shit out of the football. Who does that really well? The Indianapolis Colts. So we could very well be looking at a 3rd straight loss for the Cardinals at the wrong time in the season.
That Cardinals defense was doing real well in the beginning, but ever since I felt like they lost J.J. Watt, and I know JJ Watt wasn't putting up tremendous amount of numbers, but it's not always about the stat lines. It's also about watching the film and the attention uh, he attracts while other players are getting loose, like Marcus Golden, who's having a really silently good year, by the way. But yeah, no, that defense has been bad the last like 6 weeks. The offense is not getting any better. It's getting clunky again, and Hopkins is going to be out for the year. By the way, he ain't coming back in the playoffs.
Nope.
So yeah, no, you should be freaking out, Cardinal fans. We're sorry we put the Maloik on you, but
we did.
Best of luck though.
We're Maloiking Chiefs and Rams as well. All right. So let's get out of this. Let's talk a little bit about some of our top performances this week, specifically offensive and defensive players of the week. Lou, who's your number one offensive guy this week?
Okay, well, I'm going to give you two they're from the same team, the best team in the AFC and AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce, 10 catches, 191 and two touchdowns, and Tyreek Hill, 12 catches, 148 yards, and one touchdown. Once again, those playmakers really balled out and made a real fun, exciting Thursday night game.
Now, they're both on my list. I had them separate. I love the combination. My number one guy this week was actually Huntley.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens. I thought he balled out. I mean, he was 28 for 40, 215, 2 touchdowns, ran for another 73 and 2 touchdowns. And Lou, he did this with like not necessarily the confidence that he was 100% going to start this football game, right? There was talks of Lamar Jackson. So I know he got the reps. But he did this against the former MVP of this league, Aaron Rodgers, and went toe-to-toe. And let's call this what this is. Like, John Harbaugh and company had every opportunity to tie this football game up, take it to overtime, and see what happened from there. But like we talked about earlier, he surveyed.
You weren't gonna stop Aaron Rodgers.
No, and he surveyed the sentiment of his coaches. He surveyed the sentiment of his players, and they all said, Coach, let's go win this football game. And I love the moxie about it. But, dude, Huntley balled out, and I'm slightly pissed off about this. Because let me tell you why I'm slightly pissed off about this. Because there is not a ton of sexy quarterbacks in the NFL draft this year. We can agree on that, right? Like, nobody's talking about a quarterback going number one overall right now like they have for the last few years, especially this last draft. So free agent quarterbacks become a little bit more attractive. And what are you willing to give up for them? What are you going to pay for them? What might you trade for them if they're still under contract? What does that offseason look like? The way Jimmy's been playing these last few weeks, his value's gone up. I'll just leave it at that. Don't know what he's worth. Don't care what he's worth. Value's gone up. But then you got this guy Huntley running around and slanging it like he's Lamar Jackson 2.0.
The Ravens have to resign, keep him.
Have to. Because you don't change your offense. Exactly. You don't change your offense. But somebody's going to come playing for this guy, dude.
I don't know. You got like 3, maybe 4 more premier quarterbacks that's on the market. Wilson, Garoppolo, Rodgers, Watson. I'm pretty sure. I think those will take all precedent before him. I still think the Ravens are a smart organization. They will
retain him. They will retain him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
100%. But like,
and you got to think about if you're him, how much money are you really commanding? You want millions of dollars. Don't get me wrong. But you're only playing a couple of games. You want to be kind of like the Jim Sorgi to Peyton Manning at this point right now, and then maybe
herein lies that issue, though, right? Like we talked about this before. Like an NFL player's shelf life is really short, and you don't get to this league without having a competitive mindset of like, I want to be the best of the best, right? Very few sit there and accept I'm not the best of the best. Like, look at the dude from Washington last night, right? That was signed off of like whoever's practice squad. He comes in, he's starting. Dude, I don't know if you watched that game, but when they were talking about it, they were like, this dude once upon a time held the record for the most passing yards in Texas. Mac Brown, the head coach at Texas, literally passed on RG3 and Andrew Luck to bring this guy into the University of Texas, right? So like, what does that tell me? That I'm not going to say NFL players are a dime a dozen, but like it's all about opportunity and what you make of that opportunity.
Mhm.
And this guy might only get one opportunity to be the starter. If Lamar's there, he's never going to be the starter. And you and I can sit here who make mediocre wages to be like, yo, I take like $6 million a year, $10 million a year to be somebody's backup quarterback and never see the field. But some of these guys like, but I only get one shot to go make $25 million a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Mhm.
that's the difference. But I agree with you. Baltimore will do everything in their power to keep them.
And
All right,
they
who
will.
do you got number 2?
Well, I already did 2. Do you want to do your second? Because I have a good feeling who it is, probably.
I don't think you do.
Okay.
Mine
Uh,
is Craig Reynolds. You
okay.
heard that correctly.
Okay.
Craig Reynolds, running back, Detroit Lions, the running back, y'all. 26 for 112. Nothing sexy, but here's what it boils down to, right? Like, when else am I going to ever say this guy's name for as long as we do this podcast?
You are a closet Detroit Lions fan.
Bro, Lou.
How are you saying Craig Reynolds' name over Jonathan Taylor, who had 29
No,
carries?
because here's Jonathan Taylor. Here's why I don't say Jonathan Taylor's name. The majority of that amounted on that clutch.
He's
clutch,
still at over 100 rushing yards.
He should have went down. He should have not have scored that touchdown. Any coach will tell you that he should go down. Listen, he's on my fantasy team. Like, I want him to go in, but I'm on a bye that week, so it didn't matter for me anyway. But he should have went down. That is the way the game is supposed to play. He should not have scored that touchdown. And he, before that carry, he had 28 carries for 103 yards, like less than 4 yards a carry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it wasn't the best game from Jonathan Taylor.
So that's the problem. So that's what he is. He's a home run hitter. He's
a home run hitter. He's a home run hitter. But I'm shouting out Craig Reynolds because this is 2 weeks in a row for him. Like, so when we were doing our fantasy show 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about like running backs, a couple people mentioned Jamar Jefferson and I'm like, yes, like carries. Nobody in this world knows who Craig Reynolds is unless you're a Detroit Lions fan or a closet Detroit Lions fan like I am. Dude, 26 for 112, and he had some big time third down carries that helped them control the clock and keep Kyler Murray off the field, the Arizona Cardinals off the field. Craig Reynolds, you get a game ball this week, even if it's only from this podcast.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. All right, what about defensive players?
All right, can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I don't want anybody to steal my thunder. Not that you would.
I think you're going to steal my
thunder.
thunder.
No, you have no idea who I'm going with. I promise you on this.
I guarantee I do.
No, my number one, you might actually, because I kind of alluded to it earlier. My number one, I'm stealing a page out of your book, Lou. My number one defensive player of the week is Carson Wentz. Bro, this man in a huge game was 5 of 12 for 57 yards, 1 TD, and 1 INT. Bro, 5 of 12.
All right, it was a little windy in that dome.
He literally gave every opportunity in the world to the opposing team to win this football game. You and I talked about earlier, playoffs. This guy's got to make a play. Lou, right? Dude, I haven't really seen him make a big play since the 49ers game when they beat us on a Sunday night or a Monday night or whatever it was in the rain in San Francisco. If I felt like they were getting more productive quarterback play in Indianapolis, I'd go on record right now and say they're going to win the Super Bowl because I think their defense is playing that well. I think their running game is that good. But this guy scares me right now. And Carson Wentz, you get a game ball, but you get it for being the defensive player of the week for the New England Patriots.
I loving the creativity here.
I stole a page. Tell me that didn't come directly from your book of plays, bro.
That's page 3. Spider Y2 banana right underneath that. For me, defensive player of the week, DJ Wanham, second-year player out of South Carolina. It's crazy. Mike Zimmer always finds these edge players, and these they just pressure the quarterback phenomenally. He had 8 tackles, two tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and he's quietly having a good year. 6 sacks this year and 11 starts, by the way, only. So it's like he's been starting the whole year. So DJ Wanham out of South Carolina.
Never saw this guy before until they played the 49ers. And dude, he's becoming a household name in Minnesota. Like he's playing really, really well. You know, I mean, listen, you and I talked about like we don't get out of bed for 2 sacks, but if you put 2.5 plus up, I'm gonna pay attention a little bit more and want him with 3 sacks. I had him on my list too. So I'll scurry because I always have a couple backup plans here, and I'll take the cheap route. Almost went Darius Leonard here, but I'm going the total Saints team defense here.
Yes, good for you.
I'm not even going to talk about any stats. Like I don't even
zero. That's the only thing I say.
Yeah, they shut out Tom Brady in Tom Brady's house. Without their head coach and their top motivator, and everything that you need to know about this football game is already a meme. You've already seen Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tweet about it a million times. Watch Tom Brady slam the Microsoft Surface tablet in frustration, and that's all you need to know. That's literally all you need to know about what this Saints defense did to that Tampa Bay offense in this game.
I agree. Well, yeah, I feel like they always have their numbers during the regular season. Apparently,
they do.
Right?
They do. I mean, Brady's 0-4 against them since he's been in Tampa, but like that's a short sample size. You know,
you hate to see it. You hate to see it.
I love to see it, bro. Do you got anybody else, or you want to jump?
No, no one else really tickled the old pickle here. So no, I'm gonna say no. There's no one else I really want to acknowledge. Like I said, I'm very stingy on these.
You are very stingy on these. All right. So let's get into what are you watching? What are you looking out for this week?
We kind of alluded to it before, so I'm not going to really go too much into detail, but the Cardinals at home versus the Colts, a tale of 2 teams going the complete opposite direction. Can the Cardinals right the ship, cool off this hot Colts team? I don't know. But other than that, I'm also looking at the Cincinnati versus Baltimore game because will someone please win the AFC North?
I know.
Please lay claim. It is insane how like every team is within a game of each other. It's kind of like the AFC West we were talking about before. It seems like there's no one that's just wanting to win the division though. Once you think you figured out team, all right, first, it was the Ravens. All right, they were the team to beat. Then it was the Browns. Then it was the Steelers. Now it's the Bengals. But every time you anoint someone king of the North, they kind of fail you, and they kind of slump. So someone has to win this AFC North.
Yeah. So I too had the Colts Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Big game. We talked about it. I got Buffalo versus New England. I'm on there. I'm a sucker for divisional matchups. But this one could flip the East again. I feel like the East has just been flip flopping like all these freaking divisions this year. And here's the absolute truth.
Okay.
Buffalo has to win this game.
They have to.
Have to.
They're already the 7th seed. Yeah.
Yep. Have to win this football game. And I know New England's coming off a game they think they should have won. Like they think they should have beaten Indianapolis. I don't care what the score says. They're just built with a different mentality where Belichick's going in the house right now thinking like I should beat everybody. But that game pops off of me. But my number one game is actually tomorrow night. And I know this is a homer pick, but this is a big deal for both.
Yeah, this was a game it's interesting. Yep. They don't play in the same division.
Same division, same conference.
Not familiar.
Both playoff teams right now, both making pushes. I think in normal circumstances, they both want to do the same thing to each other. They just want to put pressure on you through the defensive line. They want to pound the ball on offense. They want to win the game in the trenches, and they want to ask their quarterbacks to do minimal things, right? Like that's what they both want to do. This game's going to present something a little bit different, but for the 49ers, really, really big because a win here pretty much solidifies them as that 6th seed, at the very least that 6th seed. A win here for the Titans is probably going to solidify them as the winners of the AFC South, right? Like it's possible, or it puts them another game closer to do that because they are the number 1 seed right now. Colts are, I think, a game out.
That's right.
But for me, the 49ers, this is the biggest game they've had all year. Short week on the road in Nashville. Nah, dude.
No,
well, because I do, but the stakes keep getting higher, right? Like, and the stakes are higher right now.
So, guys, you heard it here first from week was it 16? The 16th week in a row, Weston Smith claims that this 49ers game is the biggest game of the year.
15 out of 16 weeks. I said nothing about it last week. I just said it was an important game. But
You
this
said it was a must win.
Dude, they're all must win right now. When you're on the bubble, like there's no room for error.
Okay.
But that's what I'm looking at. So let's get into what has become, especially after this week, my favorite.
You pitted me into taking the Bears.
I didn't pit you into nothing.
You pitted me.
We'll go back and run the replay, dude, where you literally.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
Hold on a second. What's going on here?
You picked up 2 games this week on me.
Sure did, buddy. All right. So this week, you were 10-6. I was 12-4. Yeah, and think about what could have been if the Cardinals just remembered who they were and the Buccaneers just remember what they were, like what those weeks would look like. Yeah. So for the season, keep in mind, I don't think we started keeping track until week 6, I think was the first week. Buccaneers, so you're 86, 56, and 1.
Wow, 30 over.
I'm 83, 59, and 1. So you're right. I did pick up 2 games. This was a big week for me. Hoping to do it again. So as I've started to do, which has brought me better luck, I broke out my trusty pen here, Lou, to write these down. I can't tell you how much easier it is to keep track when I just have to go back and circle and cross out. Let us begin week 16 festivities.
I shall defer to the gentleman to my left because it is your game, the first game.
No. 49ers versus the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to, Weston. Yes.
I'm going to reluctantly take the Titans.
You are such a Debbie Downer. Where's the 49ers?
No, I'll tell you where it's coming from.
Is it in San Francisco?
No, it's in Tennessee.
I don't like that.
5-2 at home. They're 5-2 at home on a short week, coming off a bad beat. I know what the injuries say. I know what the rosters say. We have them too. But I have to 49ers are actually road favorites in this game. And I hate that.
What's the spread? Do you know?
I think it was 3.5.
Well, I would take this. Okay.
Are you checking it?
No, I'm not. I just wanted to see something. But that's an interesting spread to say the least. So you're taking the Titans.
I'm taking the Titans.
Is AJ Brown playing? That's what I'd love to see.
Don't know yet. Just activated off IR, and Julio apparently got in full practice.
I don't care. Julio won't finish.
Julio
the game.
Fucked me this week in fantasy, so screw him.
Okay, so Tennessee.
He's not making my top 10 wide receivers list next year. I promise you that.
I'm gonna go San Fran.
All right. I love you, Lou. I love you. All right, let's get into some games that don't matter to me. Saturday. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. You got 2 football games. First one, 4:30, Cleveland Browns at Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I go Packers.
Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers on Christmas. Of course he's going to win. Indianapolis Colts at the Arizona Cardinals later that evening.
Gotta go. I think you got to go Colts there. The Cardinals offense looks, like I said, clunky. Hopkins. Defense has been playing bad as of late. Yeah, gotta go Colts.
I'm Colts too. What we talked about before, they're going to run the ball, and they're going to be able to do it at will. And I think that just minimizes the opportunity for the Cardinals. All right, so we get back to Sunday, day after Christmas. Detroit Lions at the Atlanta Falcons.
I'll go to Atlanta. I got to think about that. Detroit, coming off that high. It could be a letdown game. Atlanta coming off that low. Could have a little fire up their ass.
So me because I'm a closet Detroit Lions fan now.
You're going Lions? Go Lions.
I was so tempted to take the Lions, but I actually do agree with you here that I think the opposites, right? Coming off the highs of highs, coming off the lows of lows, home game for the Falcons, still in contention, must win. They're going to have to pull out some stops here. And I just think their offense is going to be a little too much for Detroit's defense.
Mm-hmm.
Although my man Craig Reynolds is going to run for a buck. I'm putting it out there right now. All right, so I got Falcons too. Ravens at Bengals.
Oh, see, this is hard because you don't know if Lamar is playing. I don't think he's. I don't think he's practicing. I'm going to say.
I don't care if he plays or not.
You're going Ravens.
Yeah, 3 losses in a row for Baltimore, and 2 of them because of 2-point conversions that games could have easily gone different ways. I don't care if it's Lamar. I don't care if it's Huntley. What I saw from Huntley last week's impressive. I think the Ravens win this football game.
You know what?
Bengals have been unimpressive the last couple weeks.
I'm just entrusting the organization to be better on that Sunday. The Ravens, they're a better organization. They're better coached.
Better coach. That's what it's going to come down to, dude.
Yeah.
All right. The Rams at the Vikings.
I'll go Rams.
I'm going Vikings. I think the Rams got a little bit lucky against Seattle. But what I tell you on Jason's show, I told you Seattle does this, right? Like Seattle wins games when they get you to play their game, which is just an ugly, non-conventional football game where it comes down to fourth quarter execution. Surprise, surprise. The Rams benefit from another blatant pass interference calls that changes the tide of the game. I think this game's in Minnesota. Minnesota's competing. I'm just, and this is me trying to make up a game.
Yeah.
All right. Buffalo at New England.
Buffalo at New England.
And there should not be 50-mile-an-hour winds and everything else taking place.
I know, but it's still so hard. Hard to go. I'll say Buffalo this time.
Yep. I'm saying Buffalo too, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just taking into consideration. I'm just taking into consideration that last week we crowned them the AFC best team, and the Maloik usually 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah. I still think they're under this bad juju that we gave them.
I just think Buffalo has to win this game. New England does not, but Buffalo has to win this football game. Jaguars at the Jets.
Quietly the biggest game.
I can't believe neither of us talked about this and what we're watching.
Can I say tie?
Let me put this to you like this, bro. I when I pull up the schedule, I look at it on ESPN.com. So ESPN, you just got free publicity from us. But part of when I look at the schedule, it tells you ticket prices. And normally it says tickets as low as X. For this game, in New York, mind you, or in Rutherford, New Jersey, shout out New Jersey.
If you buy the tickets, they'll give you $5 worth of Bitcoin.
Tickets as low as $13. Okay, let me put this into perspective for you. My family owns New York Giants season tickets. I inherited them from my grandfather. So it's me and my brother who split them. I never go. We have the very last row in the stadium. Lou, I'm not even kidding. We are the highest seats in the stadium, the last row in the same stadium that the New York Jets play in. Face value for our tickets in our section, $105. And this is sitting here saying tickets as low as $13.
Okay.
People are taking $92 losses on their tickets.
It's a crazy time we live in. All that being
Best
said,
game of the year, baby. Best game of the year. That's all it means. It's a barn burner here.
Jaguars. Second week of their coach, get more acclimated and what have you. I'll say Jaguars.
I'm taking the Jets. I'm taking the Jets for one reason. Robert Saleh. I want Saleh to get a win. I'm going to root for Robert Saleh.
Isn't he? He has COVID.
The head coach?
It just happened today. Now
I'm taking the Jaguars. Now I don't care at all. I'm taking the Jaguars. Is he really?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
I'm Googling this shit. Hold on. We're not advancing any further until I get clarity on this scenario. Robert Saleh.
Just try COVID.
news. Yeah, just read COVID, and he's the poster child. New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh tests positive for COVID-19. Therefore, Weston Smith chooses the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. It's right in the article. I read it word for word.
It's from NFL.com, right? Yeah, I read the article too.
Ian Rappaport just reported it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So I too have the Jaguars.
Okay.
All right. G-Men at Eagles.
I'll take the Eagles.
I'm taking the Eagles as well. Although
I think this game, I think the Giants could cover. But
yeah. Okay, let's put this into perspective. Tickets for this game as low as $106. All right, so Tampa Bay at Carolina. I'm just going to write in your pick.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, me as well. Chargers at Houston. I'm going to write in your pick.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's Houston. No kidding.
Obviously, I'm taking the Chargers as well. Bears at the Seahawks.
I'm going to have to take the Seahawks. It's at Seattle. I can't picture
Seattle.
Justin Fields going.
Not going to go well for him. Steelers at the Chiefs.
I gotta pick the best team in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs too. Broncos at Raiders.
Bridgewater is not playing.
I'm taking the Raiders.
Yeah, I gotta take. Drew Lock is not it.
No, he is definitely not it. Washington football team at Dallas Cowboys.
I'll take Dallas. I don't know who's playing anymore under center with Washington.
I know. Although I tell you what, man, I found myself rooting for that kid, Garrett Gilbert, last night. I didn't know much about him, to be honest with you. And then all of a sudden, like, getting his story, I'm like, damn, I want this dude to ball out, even though I
feel like good.
I needed Hurts and Goddard to ball out, and they did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Cooper Kupp put up a monster game, and by fractions of a point, I lost in one of my fantasy playoff leagues.
Yep.
Pissed.
I feel like Dallas has been sputtering as of late on the offensive side of the ball. I know Pollard's a little banged up. Zeke, his knee, Pollard's foot. Offensive line's a little banged up. Tyrone Smith, his back as always. His neck, his back. You know how the rest goes.
Doctor says I needed backy out of me.
But their offense hasn't been as explosive. There was one point I think they were ranked like second or third in the league, and they've fallen the last 3-4 weeks.
They've been slumping, dude. I think
ever since that Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, I think teams who are on the fringe of the playoffs want to play them or the Bucs right now. Being dead honest with you, right? Because I think people are looking at it like Dallas is floundering offensively, and that was always
But their defense is excelling though.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons.
Diggs.
Nah.
Ozzy Odugazawa.
Diggs
I always want to drop an Ozzy bomb on you.
I know, and I appreciate it. Diggs is like, you ever seen the movie Clueless when we were growing up? Total Monet. Like, he looks good from afar. No, because he gives up so many big plays too. Like, he gives up so many big plays.
You're right, but in that last 3 weeks, he has been stickier in coverage.
Who have they played?
You play who's on your schedule, bro.
That's true. All right. You're stealing pages out of my book now. All right. So you got the boys. I got the boys. Monday night, Dolphins at Saints.
Ooh. If Saints lost to the Bucs, I think I would have picked the Saints here. This is Dolphins at Saints. Give me the Saints.
Yeah, I'm Saints too, and you know why I'm the Saints. If the Saints defense was able to do that at home in Tom Brady's house, I can't wait to see what they do.
New Orleans is a tough place for Tua to win. Yeah.
Talk about quarterbacks. That ain't it.
So what games are we different?
We are different.
Minnesota, LA.
And 49ers, Titans.
That's it? Only two? No, you picked the Jags last minute. I should have shut my mouth up on that one.
You should have, because I would have gone Jets heavy. You know what? Can I still go back to the Jets? Jets. I'm gonna go back.
Hey, it's your show. You can do whatever you want.
You're fucking right, motherfucker. I'm going back to the Jets, and I'm saying they're gonna win it for Coach Saleh, because I guarantee Mike LaFleur, younger brother of Matt LaFleur, Green Bay's head coach, is going to be the head coach in this game. Let's go get him. Former 49er coordinator, by the way. Go get him, LaFleur. All right.
LaFleur. Isn't that from Dodgeball too? LaFleur.
I don't even know. I don't watch many Ben Stiller movies, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, we're gonna have a little offline chat about this. All
We
right.
can talk about it. All right. So let's get it. We're in the home stretch here. Time for some that fantasy football advice where people are now in the semis of most of their leagues. They should be in the semis. If you're not in the semis, you're still in the quarters. You got an issue. But you should be in the semis of your league. Last week was wild.
Or not,
COVID.
really. Because a lot of low scores across the board.
Well, yeah. Or if you have Michael Pittman who decides he wants to get thrown out in the middle of the game, or Julio Jones who wants to do nothing during the game and walk out. Jamar Chase who just wants to disappear from God's green earth in the middle of
Did you
nothing.
hear what I said?
I did, because I said it too. I said
we talked
Higgins about Burrow.
They would have
up. Denver's defense is in the secondary.
Well.
They're different. They match up well. They'll take your receivers
the Bengals,
away. All right, give me your number one guy.
My number one guy. My number one.
Or just the guy you're starting with in this conversation.
Okay. Amon St. Brown. He's been on a tear last couple of weeks. He scored 24 points, 15 points, 23 points. Atlanta ranked second in the league in touchdowns allowed by wide receivers. Brown, I think, has been like the third or fourth ranked wide receiver over the last 3 weeks. If you are one of those people that own Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, this would be a great replacement. For one of those guys who got dinged up and hurt. So Amon St. Brown of Weston Smith's Detroit Lions.
That's true. Dude, I pounded for Amaron on the weekend and in the past. I just think he's a target monster right now, and he's finding the end zone, which even bodes well. He's actually number one on my list as well.
Well, so I wanted to steal your time. I'm like, yo, he's definitely going to have a Lion.
So pumped up, right? I know. All Lions, right? I'm so pumped up that you stole him right now. So then I'll revert to my number two. I'm going to go with Russell Gage. His name keeps coming up, and he keeps being like tending to be this more fringe player, but I've been high on him for a while. He's just a target monster for the Falcons. And if he finds the end zone, plus, but he's getting legit 10 to 12 targets a week. So if he's getting you 7 catches and you're in a PPR and he's getting you 70 to or even 60 to 80 yards, I mean, you're in the 15-point category from maybe your flex position or maybe your third wide receiver or whatever your format is. And he's going against the Detroit Lions secondary, right? On top of that, which is, the same thing I would say for St. Brown, right? Like he's going against the Falcons secondary. So I feel like they're both gonna eat this week. So I had St. Brown number one. I got Gage number two. Do you have a number two?
I got 2 number 2s.
Who does number 2 work for?
Okay. Last couple of weeks, what have I been preaching and praising and pounding the table for? Get your handcuffs. 2 weeks ago, what did I say? If you have Fournette, pick up Ronald Jones. You just don't need some of those players that you have on your bench. So extra kicker, extra defense, your second quarterback. And guess what? It's the Ronald Jones show now out there in Tampa Bay with Fournette going on IR probably for about 3 weeks or so. And look who Tampa Bay has to face the next couple of weeks. Panthers, Jets, Panthers. Easily he could put up halfway decent numbers. Pick up Ronald Jones, and we're staying in Tampa. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, bum hammy. Awful news with Chris Godwin tearing his ACL on the franchise tag. He's out. Antonio Brown possibly could be coming back. Who else do they have to throw to besides Gronk? Antonio Brown has that rapport with Tom Brady. I could picture Tom Brady force feeding him. Antonio Brown would be another good replacement for Godwin or Mike Evans.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like devastated over this Leonard Fournette because I got him so cheap and so late in one of my leagues that I finished number 1 overall. And to the mere fact that like I have him down, I have Evans down, I got Tyreek in COVID protocol, and I'm coming off a bye week, and I'm just like, Like, thankfully, my team is pretty deep here, so we'll see how it goes. Why don't I have a? Oh, sorry. I guess the waiver doesn't go through. I was making a pickup as we're talking.
You're like, wow, Lou, that was a good suggestion.
What? Okay, that's so funny. So let me give you my last one. Lou, I've seen the errors in my ways, and I'm calling out Javonte Williams this week. And I'll talk more about it this weekend if you hear us, and this is not a cop-out. What have I said all week, all year? I've said I'm not the hugest fan of Javonte because it's a timeshare. So if you have opportunities to get backs that are not timeshare, and Melvin Gordon's been the number one guy in terms of touches, and I think the tide is finally changing. Javonte, 3 of the last 4 weeks, if you're in a full PPR league, 20 plus points. I think he has a very favorable matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders this weekend. And I think we're now at the point of the season. Broncos are still alive, still trying to make a push. We talked about how tight that AFC West is. I think now is when you're going to see the tilt. So I'm no dummy. I know Javonte is on everybody's roster. He's rostered, right? But if this, like, to me, this is the week. If you haven't already been starting him, he needs to go in. That's why I saved it for number 3, essentially, on my list, because it's a little bit more obvious than the other two. But I think now is due time to pull the trigger and get him into your lineup.
All right, listeners, and we'll give you some behind-the-scenes access right now. Last week, we're on Jay's podcast talking about fantasy football. Weston did not have faith in ye old Javonte Williams. Did not have faith whatsoever. Jason quickly announced that he will be relieving Weston of his fantasy football duties on his podcast because of not having ye old faith in Javonte Williams. This is a literally live on-air proposal to, like, hey, baby, take me back type stuff right now. So
I've seen the errors in my ways. I'm so sorry. I love you. Good news for me is Lou can't make this weekend, so I'm going to be begged to be back anyway. No, I'm just kidding. That was a lot of fun. So if you guys, for our fantasy football players and, the few listeners we do have, I know they all play fantasy football. It's a lot of fun on Sundays. We laugh more than we do anything else. Try to give you some insight on who maybe to play. And, I know Lou and I are a bunch of goofballs, but our record does precede us. We both tend to do pretty well in fantasy football and have some good track records. And, lo and behold, from time to time, we know what we're talking about too, right? So if you're looking for some advice, I know the season's almost over, but if you're trying to win your league, let us know. Check us out on Sundays. It's Jason Aponte's show. But Lou, that wraps it up for us. A lot of fun. We're here now at the holiday season. I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas. I'm going to send the Hanukkah armadillo or the holiday armadillo or whatever he is to anybody else out there.
And Weston, I would like to wish you and your family a happy Festivus.
Yes, thank you.
From the rest of us.
May your feats be mighty.
Yes, and I cannot wait for the airing of our grievances next week.
Yes, because there's going to be
Festivus starts on the 27th. So.
Can't wait. Best holiday of the year. But to everybody, again, that wraps us up for week 15, heading into week 16. A lot of fun, happy and safe holidays, and you'll hear from us next week. Also, check us out. We're going to be live. Lou, don't forget, this is also a reminder to you. Next Tuesday night, we're supposed to be with Jesse Naylor, who runs within the 49ers community, asked us to hop on. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. I just think it's going to be anything NFL. We'll have a lot of fun, but that'll be we'll post that out after that wraps next Tuesday as well.
Definitely, thanks for reminding me. I'll have to get my eyebrows and eyelashes done for that show. Thank you.
Get them done, man. You want to bat them and look pretty, baby. You are the looks of the show. That's for sure.
Oh man,
buttering you up before the holiday. All right. Well, that's enough buttering each other's beanbag for the evening. I appreciate everybody. You'll hear from us later. Adios.